Okay, let's go. We're holding on Daf Chaf. We're starting Be'ezrat Hashem Daf Chaf Aleph on the top of the page. So give Abi a Gemara, open up him. So, a flame in the ner. Aval osim mehem medura. If you want to make a bonfire with them, that's okay. Ben lit hamem. Whether you want to make it for heat, kinegda. Ben lishtamesh lora. You want to use the light of the bonfire. Albert, the books, right? Ben lishtamesh lora. And you're allowed to make that bonfire ben al gabe karka, on the ground, ben al gabe kira, or on top of an oven, or al gabe menorah. The reef has the gisa on top of a menorah. V'lo asru, the only isur is la'asot mehem petilot lener bilvad. You're just not allowed to use them as wicks, but you're allowed to burn them for a bonfire. Look at Nashi. Aval osim mehem medura hesek gadol, a big fire. She'had mav'ir haviro, one burns the other, it burns fine. Lener, Rashi says, is a kroizul. Kroizul is that the type of ner that we showed over here, right? It's not a candle, even though in modern Hebrew we call it a candle. It's really like this. It's a ner that's like this. The old lamps, you can buy them in the Arab shuk. You see them, that you fill the oil in from there and you put the wick there. The wick goes down to here and it draws the oil up. So you need a long draw. It has to draw the oil a long way. In order to do that, the oil has to be the right type of oil that flows, and the wick has to have the right chemical properties that it will draw the oil up. Only this type of ner. There was no other type of ner. The other one is called the petila, like Rashi said before. Velo b'shemen kik. So now, maybe for one time, we'll at least understand what we say Friday night. Velo b'shemen kik. You're not allowed to light with zefet, which we said is pitch. Lo b'sha'ava is wax. And we're talking not wax, a wax candle like we have, but we're talking wax as a fuel that you're going to put in the hole over there, and it's going to melt and get drawn up the wick. V'lo b'shemen kik. My shemen kik. What shemen kik? Amar Shmuel says, She'iltinhu lekol nechutei yam. I asked all the people that travel. Ve'amru li, and they told me, Of echad yesh bekarchei hayam. There's a type of bird in the islands. Ve'kik shemo, it's called kik. And they make oil from its eyes or from its bones or something. Shemen kik, shemen shel of echad, notnim bener v'dolek. So kanere it doesn't burn so well. Rabbi Yitzchak bered Rav Yehuda Amar, Mishcha de Kaza. It's oil of Kaza. Rashi says, Shemen she'osim migar'ineh, from the seeds of Tzemer Gefen, shekorin koton. You see how old the words are? Cotton seed oil. Yeah. Rav Resh Lakish Amar, Kikayon Diyonah. It's a oil from the kikayon tree. What's a kikayon? The same type of kikayon that grew on top of Yonah. Amar Rabba Bar Barhana. Rabba Bar Barhana said, Lididi Hazi kikayon diyonah. I saw that type of tree. Vilitzluliva dami. It's like a sluliva. I don't know exactly what a sluliva is. Gimel? No, it's not. Ilan strak. It's a type of non-fruit bearing tree. Umedefaske rabi. It grows from the swamp areas. Va'alpum hanuta madlanyate. They take the branches and they put it or they drape it on top of the stores. Why? Because it gives a good smell. Yeah. Okay. Valpum hanuta madlanyate. They put it on the doors of the stores because it gives a good smell. Umi partzi dohi, and from its pits. Avde mishha. They squeeze the pits. They squeeze the seeds and they make an oil. Ube amfohi, and under its branches, naihan, they rest. Kol birihe de ma'arava. All the sick people in the west. Amarabba says, So therefore, we have three different explanations in shemen kik. Either it's from some sort of a bird called a kik, either it's cotton seed oil, which at least we know what that is, or it's the branches of the kikayon diyonah, which also some type of tree that they make oil from its seeds. Amar Rabba says, Petilot she'amru hachamim en madlikim bahem b'Shabbat. The wicks that the Chachamim said that you can't light with them on Shabbat, the reason is mepeneh shehaur mesachsechet bahem, because the fire is jumping on them. It doesn't stay. Look at Rashi. Mesachsechet kemin sakim peguma. It's like a knife that has bumps in it. That's serrated. Mesachsechet besabasar. It scrapes the flesh. An mulid bilaz. She'eno rozakuf v'noach. The light doesn't go straight up and rest in b'makom echad. Ela nid'ach. It goes down v'kofetz and jumps up. Lishnachrina, another lashon. Mesachsechet bahen ena nechneset tocha petila. It doesn't go into the wick. You don't see the fire from inside the wick. Ela saviv mi bahutz. It's like surrounding it, but there's like a space between it. When you have that space, it easily like jumps off the wick. Kemo sichsecha avanav. Shemanim, back inside. Shemanim she'amru chachamim en madlikim bahem. The oils that the chachamim said you can't light with. Mepeneh she'en nimshachim achar petila. Because they don't draw well after the wick. And it's coming up haphazardly. Rashi says, ve'ati lehatot. So if he wants to get it better, he'll tilt it so that maybe the oil will be closer to the mouth of the ner, and he'll get a better flame. And by doing that, he's chayav for burning on Shabbat. Ba'amine abaya mirabba. Shemanim she'amru chachamim en madlikim bahem. The oils that the chachamim said you can't light with b'Shabbat on Shabbat. Ma'o she'iten letocho shemen koshu v'yadlik. Let me put a little good oil in it, and that will give it the right chemical properties that it will be nimshach. Test it. The question is not does it work. It works. The question is, does that make it mutar?
Putting a little dot of oil will make all the zit or whatever.
There's an amount. It's not kol shu. It's not one thing. But if you put a teaspoon, you put it in a big thing, it gives it enough. It gives it enough.
This is talking about all the oils or the fuels that you could use to light a candle on Shabbat.
Actually, this is what you cannot use.
Cannot use. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. If somebody uses it anyhow, they're going against the Torah.
They're going against the Chachamim. The Chachamim said don't do it.
But they don't touch it.
The rabbis told you not to do it because if you do it, you might come to touch it. Like Rabbi Ishmael. Rabbi Ishmael said, I'm going to read and I'm not going to what's it called. And then when he did it, he said, Kama gidolim devrei Chachamim. Yeah, same thing here. We have a mitzvah.
Today, if they still had the same system, you still wouldn't be able to use it.
Correct.
Okay, so you cannot burn. If somebody wants to light their fireplace,
Fireplace, we said, is okay.
it has to be.
Only for a ner is a problem. Let's say you're in deal and there's a blackout. Happens all the time. You don't have a generator. So you go to the store to buy oil to light candles with for Shabbat, and the only thing the guy was willing to sell you is cottonseed oil. Don't buy it. Why? You can't light with it. Go buy shemen mazola.
So if there's a storm, and you light the house,
You gotta get
you don't see the ingredients in the candle.
You don't see the ingredients, you don't have to assume it is. But if you know it's not, you're not allowed to light it. It's a halacha midrabanan. There's no reason for it to change. If stuff doesn't work, you're going to come to tilt it. Dvarim peshutim. Every isur drabanan lasts until it's annulled, even if the reason doesn't even apply anymore. Let's continue. We'll see. You're never allowed to read by the lamp. Even you're not allowed to eat by this. Because you're going to get so frustrated. Every time you try and pick up a piece of roast, the candle's going to jump down. You're going to get bananas. Boy, you keep trying.
buy good candles.
No. This is by bad candles. By good candles, you're allowed to eat because it doesn't need so much light. Okay. The candles, the lights that the Chachamim said you can't use. could you put in a little good oil and it will light? So he says, Rashi, Shemen amnitan let betocho mamshicho la'achar petila. When you put the good oil in, it draws the bad oil to the wick. So he says, we assume it's mutar. We assume en lanu el. The only things that's asur are the ones that the rabbis mentioned. The Gemara is going to say it later. They didn't know every oil under the sun. That's true. Or the opposite. The rule that we say is if they didn't mention it, we assume it's mutar. Because if they didn't make a gezerah, we don't make our own gezerot. Generally. But it's good thinking. Let's see. Mi gazrinan. Do we make a gezerah? Dil ma'ati la'adluke be'enayhu? But don't worry, when the incandescent light came out, they wrote books and books about it. Right? Mi gazrinan. Dil ma'ati la'adluke be'enayhu? Do we make a gezerah? Whether they could, that you might come, you're lighting with cottonseed oil. Why? Because you put a little olive oil in it. Right? Your kids don't know that. If the week you're not home, they're going to light with plain cottonseed oil. So do we make that gezerah or not? Amar le, he told him, en madlikim. You can't lie with it. My ta'ama, what's the reason? Lefisha en madlikin. Because I told you so, right? Right? You can't light with it. You're lighting for heki, you light.
If you're walking, if you're in a hotel.
Patience.
And they have a cottonseed candle.
So that's not your problem. You didn't light it.
You're using the light.
You can't use the light. That's also true. You can't. My don't stay in that hotel. My love lehadlik. Sorry. The Gemara says lefish emadlikim be'enayu. Since you can't light with it plain, the gazrinan ha'atuha. If you light with it with a little oil, you're going to come to light with it plain. That's the same. En madlikim. We have en madlikim. Rashi does en madlikim. Okay, we don't have the other nusach. Eitivei. I'll ask you a question. Karach davar shemadlikim bo, al gabe davar she'en madlikim bo. We're talking about wicks. You wrapped a wick that you could light with around the wick that you can't light with. Rashbag omer shel bet abba. Oh, sorry. Karach davar shemadlikim bo, al gabe davar she'en madlikim bo. You wrapped a good wick on a bad wick. En madlikim bo. You're not allowed to light with it. Amar Rashbag Omer, Shel Bet Abba, my father's house, Hayu Korchim Petila Al Gabe Egoz. They would wrap the wick around the nut, Umadlikim, and they would light it. You can't light with nuts, yet they wrapped it around it and it was okay. Katani Mihat Madlikin. It says you're allowed to light with it. Amar Le, so he told him, so you see you have good and bad and you're allowed to light with it. Amar Le, Ademot Vatli Mid Rashbag. Why are you asking me a question from Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel who says it's okay? Say'inhu mi de Tanakama. Bring help to me from the Tanakama who says it's no good. Well, why are you choosing sides? Says Gemara, halo kasha. That's not a question. Ma'aseh Rav. When you have two opinions, one rabbi says it theoretically, the other rabbi said, I saw rabbis doing it. We hold that when somebody actually followed his pisak, the Ma'aseh, it's a stronger pisak because we know he relied on it 100%. Mikom makom kasha. So it's difficult. Haver Rashbag allows you to wrap a good wick around the bad wick and light it. So too, and we don't go there. Maybe you're going to light with the bad wick alone. So too, we should allow you to light with the good and bad oil mixed, and not go there. Maybe you're going to light with the bad oil alone. Kasha says the Gemara, my lav lahadlik. When he wrapped it around the bad one, he wanted the bad one to help it light. Lo lehakpot. He had it just to give it strength to stand up. With the egos. Ila hakpot. If it's not there for lighting, my ta'amad de Tanakama. Why does Tanakama say it's no good? Hare, you're not really lighting with it. Kula Rashbag. It all goes like Rashbag. V'chisura mechsera. There's a piece missing in the Braita. V'hachi katani. This is the way to read it. Karach davar shemadlikim bo al gabe davar she'em madlikim bo. If you wrapped something that you could light around something you can't light, and madlikim bo, you can't light with it. Then this is what's missing. Bamed varim amurim. When can you light with a mixed good and bad wick? Lehadlik. If your intention is to use both of them for lighting. Aval lehakpot. But if your intention is just to float the wick, mutar, it's okay. Sheraban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer Shel Bet Abba My father's house, hayu korchim petilah, they would wrap the wick al gabe goz on top of a nut in order to float up the float up the candle, the wick. They sell wicks, cotton with a piece of metal inside. So metal you can't light with, but that metal is not there for lighting. It's there just to keep it up, so it's mutar. Ini. So now, is it true? Is it true that if you have a combination of good and bad, you can't light? Ve'ha'amar Rav Brona. Amar Rav Brona said in the name of Rav, Helev mehutach. We spoke about yesterday. This is Nachum stuff, right? Helev mehutach, rendered fat, like Yehuda said, melted fat. You cooked the fat, and it became a liquid. It became like an oil. V'kirvei dagim shenimohu, and fish intestines that were melted. Again, he cooked them and he made them into a liquid. So we said in the Mishnah, you're not allowed to light with them. Adam noten letocho shemen kolshu. Put a little bit of oil in. Fadam. You put a little bit of oil in, umadlik, and you can light with them. So you see the opposite. You see you have a shemen that you're not allowed to light with, helev mehutach. Put a little bit of olive oil in it, and it's mutar. So the Mishnah, same thing, right? Kirvei dagim, that's shemen dagim. That's later, right? This becomes an issue. The kirvei dagim shenimochu becomes an issue. Adam noten letocho shemen kolshu. A person puts a little bit of oil in it, right? And you light with it. Says the Gemara, not a question. Haneh chelev mehutach and kirvei dagim shenimochu mimsheche be'einayhu. They themselves really light. They light well. V'hani lo mimsheche be'einayhu. But regular oils of the Mishnah, they themselves don't draw. V'gazru Rabbanan al chelev mehutach mishum chelev she'eno mehutach. When it says ehad mevushal, ve'ehad she'eno mevushal ein madlikim bo, the reason why you can't light with the mevushal is because next week you'll come to light with eno mevushal. People say I'm lighting with chelev. Between mevushal and eno mevushal, they're not so medakdek. So 1 week you'll light with it when it's mevushal, 1 week you'll light with it she'eno mevushal.
You're not allowed.
What?
We don't want you to mix up.
That's why. So therefore, watch. Watch. Shenimochu mishum kirvei dagim shelo nimochu. So now you want to say, v'ligzor nami helev mehutach v'kirvei dagim shenimochu shenatam letochan shemen mishum helev mehutach v'kirvei dagim shenimochu shelo natan letochan shemen. So I'm already 2 steps away from bad. I have the helev mehutach and I put shemen in it. So why do I want to make a gezerah? Make a gezerah maybe if he puts shemen in it. Next time he'll come to light with helev mehutach without shemen. That in itself is only midrabanan. Gezerah, maybe you'll use it without cooking it. So that's making a gezerah le-gezerah.
Keeping you away from mehutach. We don't want you to lie with mehutach. It's not gezerah.
Yeah.
Before they said you could light with this, you can't light with this, you can't light with this.
Correct.
The person had to keep Shabbat.
Right.
And he went and he lived. Were there laws then about which one?
I don't know. I don't know at what point they made the gezerah. But at whatever point they made the gezerah, it became law. Before that, it wasn't asur. It wasn't good because you had problems, but it wasn't asur yet. So at the point before they made the gezerah, as long as you didn't tilt it, you were okay. Once they made the gezerah, you're going against an isur d'Rabbanan. And a person is obligated from the Torah to follow the laws midrabanan. Hashem told us that we have to follow the laws of the Chachamim.
So Rabbi, it's a gezerah le gezerah.
But in the meantime, before this, it was up to the person's free will.
Correct.
To not
Correct. Smart guy wouldn't lie with it anyway because it wasn't good. But if he was put back against the wall, it would be okay. Once the law became legislated, it became asur. Like taking drugs. It's not smart to take drugs whether they're legal or not. Right? But before it's illegal, you want to do it, go ahead. Now that it's illegal, we'll put you in jail. Same thing. Okay. He gufa gezerah. Shemen mehutach is a gezerah. Now you want to make a gezerah. shemen mehutach with oil, atu shemen mehutach. I don't make a gezerah to protect me from a drabanan. Va'ana neikum v'nigzor gezerah al gezerah. So that's why the only two that you could use with shemen are the two that by themselves are good, and they're only a gezerah. What's that? Halev mehutach and kirvei dagim shenimochu. Tani Rami bar Hama. Rami bar Hama taught, Petilot ushmanim. Petilot ushmanim. The oils and the wicks. Sha'amru chachamim. Em madlikim b'hem b'Shabbat. The same ones that they said you can't use on Shabbat because it doesn't work good. Em madlikim b'hem b'mikdash. They can't use those wicks. Now, why it says you can't use those oils is a chidush. What do you mean you can't use the oil? Doesn't it say, what do you have to use in the Beit HaMikdash? Shemen Zayin Zach. So what's he saying? He's telling you can't use the oils in the Beit HaMikdash. Of course you can't use the oils. How am I going to use Shemen Kik? It's not Shemen Zayit. Not mixture. Shemen Zayit Zach, now he's giving me adulterated olive oil. Hazar Baruch. Not buying from your olive oil store. Zach. Zach means it's like clear, first press. Right? Actually, Zach means pure. Katit means first press. So he says, you're not allowed to use it. Says the Gemara, La'alot ner tamid. Hu tani la, v'hu amar la. He explained it. Why? Because we have a hiyuv, like we said yesterday. Kedei sheteheh shalhevet ola me'eleha. The flame has to go up good. V'lo sheteh ola al yedei davar acher. And it shouldn't go up. It shouldn't go up with something else. So therefore, if you use the bad oils, the oil is not, the light is not going to go good. That's against what the Torah says. Sheteh shalevet olam eleh. Tanan we learned. Mibala'eh mechnese kohanim umehemanehem hayu mafki'im umehem madlikim simchat bet hasho'eva. So what wicks by simchat bet hasho'eva? They would make very big candelabras with big reservoirs of oil, and they would put huge wicks in, and they would light it, and it would be tremendous fire, big, very bright, like floodlights, very big fire. So now, had they make the wicks, so they took the worn-out bigdei kehuna, they would cut them into strips, and they would make a wick with them. Now that's good, because the Kohanim's pants are made from what? From linen, and that's okay. But then they would use umehemanehem and from their belts, and the belts has linen and wool in it. Sha'nez, yes, the Kohanim in the Beit HaMikdash, in the belts wore sha'nez. So now, we said you can't light with wool. Over here, you're telling me what you're not allowed to light with, you can't light in Beit HaMikdash, and they were lighting with wool.
But if they make, you said like, who gets the road that they're making?
Yeah.
Mikdash was in the past to it.
The same time as Beit HaMikdash. He's telling you the law was you couldn't use it in the Beit HaMikdash. And yet, they were using it in the Beit HaMikdash. So he answers, Simchat Bet HaSho'eva Shani. Simchat Bet HaSho'eva is different. That's not a hiyuv in the Torah to make Simchat Bet HaSho'eva. There's no hiyuv to light candles. Elamai, it works. Right? I need light, so I have to light it. So it's not a mitzvah, it's like a machshireh mitzvah. I need light in order to do the party. With the amount of it worked. What's the reason normally why you can't? It's like you gezerah, maybe it's not going to work, or maybe you're going to use plain wool. This worked, we had it, it worked, it was okay. Doesn't make a difference. There's no halakha. If you want to light on a Tuesday night with bad oil and bad wicks, be my guest. No, could be when you're burning such a big flame, it's okay. You're burning this huge flame. Also, Tanan, we have another Mishnah. Tashema, Tetani Rabba Barmatna. Big. That's what they used. No, they used the things and they used the belts. The problem is. But we said you're not allowed to mix at all. Rabba Tashema, Tetani Rabba Barmatna. Bigdei Kuna Shebalu. When the Bigdei Kuna would wear out, Mafki'in Otam. They would cut them into pieces. Umehen osi, or they would take them apart. Umehen osim petilot lemikdash, and they would use them to make wicks for the Beit HaMikdash. I guess that's when they're still usable. So he says, my love, the Kalaim, weren't they also ripping the ones that had wool in it? And lighting the menorah, it says it in the Torah, and it has to be with the right type. Lo, the boots, they only would cut up the linen ones. But the ones that had shatnez, they wouldn't use for this purpose. So far, so good. Now we're going to start the sugya of Hanukkah. And let's see how it segues in. Amar Rav Huna. Rav Huna says, Petilot ushmanim she'amru chachamim en madlikim ben b'Shabbat. The wicks and the oils that the rabbi said not to use on Shabbat because they don't burn well. En madlikim bahem b'Hanukkah. You can't use them to light the menorah. Ben b'Shabbat, ben b'Hol. You can't light not with them on Shabbat of Hanukkah and not on the weekday of Hanukkah.
So you use Shabbat and then Hanukkah?
We light first Hanukkah and then Shabbat. But he's talking you can't light the menorah not on Shabbat with them and not on weekday with them. Amar Rabba, my ta'amad Rav Huna. What's Rav Huna's reasoning? Kasavar, he holds, pay attention closely, he holds kapta zakukla. He holds if it goes out, you have to relight it. What? Meaning, it's a mitzvah to light the menorah for a half hour, right? It has to be lit for half an hour. Let's say I lit it, I put enough oil, and it went out. Rav Huna holds, you're responsible to make sure that it stays lit for half an hour. So if I light with a good oil, the odds are it's gonna light the whole time. I'm doing what I can to make sure that it lights. If I light with a bad oil, you just increased your odds that it's going to go out. Rav Huna is afraid you're going to be lazy. The guy lit his menorah, he lied down in bed, he's tired, he sees it went out after 10 minutes, he says, I'm not going to relight it. And then he's not going to be Yotzei Ner Hanukkah. So therefore we legislated from the beginning you have to use a good oil so that you won't come to be lazy and not light it. Look in Rashi, Zakuk la letakena, you have to fix it. Hilkach tzarich lechatchila. You have to, from the beginning, la'asot yafeh, make it good. Dilma pasha, maybe he'll be negligent. V'lo metaken la. So that's why he doesn't let you light with it on the weekday. On Shabbat, I don't have to say that. Why? Because kapta en zakukla on Shabbat. If it goes out on Shabbat, you can't fix it. So therefore, he holds mutar lishtamesh leorah. He holds that it's okay to use the light from the Hanukkah candles. So Friday night, if it's going to be a bad fire, you're going to be using it and you'll come to fix it. No, you might say that's the point. You see that the reason that applies on Hol doesn't apply on Shabbat. Because kapta zakukla, you can't fix it on Shabbat. And the reason of Shabbat that you might come to fix it doesn't apply on Hol, because on Hol fix it. Right? That's what he says. Rav Hizda Amar, Rav Hizda says, Madlikim ba'im b'Hol. You can use them on the weekday. Avalo b'Shabbat, but you can't use it on Shabbat. Kasavar, he holds, Kapta en zakukla. If it went out, you don't have to fix it, because once you lit it, it's okay. Rashi says, Hilkach b'Hol shari. Umutar lishtamesh le'orah. You're allowed to use the light, therefore on Shabbat you can't use it because you might come to tilt it.
You can't, if all the ones that you're allowed to have, you have no access to.
Right?
And you're not going to have light for Shabbat.
Don't light them. Don't light it. Once there's a halacha, I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to light with it. Amar Rabbi Zera, Amar Rav Matna, the Amrila Amar Rabbi Zera Amarav. They argue on both statements. They say, Petilot ushmanim she'amru chachamim en madlikim b'hem b'Shabbat. The oils and the wicks, or the wicks and the oils that the rabbi said you can't use on Shabbat, madlikim b'hem b'Hanukkah. You're allowed to light with them on Hanukkah, ben b'Hol, ben b'Shabbat. You can use them on weekdays and you can use them on Shabbat. Amar Rabbi Miyah says, my ta'amad Rav. Why does Rav hold you could use them on Shabbat and on weekdays for Hanukkah? Kasavar kapta in zakukla. He holds that if the menorah went out once you lit it, you don't have to put it on again. You want to do it, but you're not hayav. So therefore, I don't make a gezerah. Don't light with the bad oil. Maybe you'll go out and you won't light it. Doesn't make a difference if it goes out. You were yotzeh.
I don't understand something.
You-
Don't know how to go now to Shabbat by anyway.
Yeah.
And Hashem gives us free will.
Right.
So here's one of the few cases that you're seeing that they're sitting and they're controlling the free will. If somebody
But not
else-
controlling free will.
If you're sitting and you're watching the candle burning, and it's a thing that you might turn it or might not turn it. So every minute that you're not turning it, you're getting a mitzvah.
Hashem told the rabbis, "Ushmartem et mishmarti." You should watch my laws, which we understand to mean make a fence, asu siyag la Torah. Make a fence for the Torah. So when Hashem gave the Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu, he told Moshe Rabbeinu, you and all those that follow you, the leaders of the Sanhedrin, are in charge of making sure that my laws are kept. How should you make sure? Put rabbinic fences around things that are close to being trampled on. Don't say the guy has free will, let him deal with it himself. Keep him away. The best way to be careful is to stay away from a bad situation. That's the aleph of keeping the Torah. Don't go into the not kosher restaurant and sit with the guy and order a steak and say, but I'm not going to eat it. That's not the way we do mitzvot. We don't go to the not kosher restaurant. We don't order a steak. Lech lech amrin l'nazirah. Sehor sehor lekarma lo tikrav. We tell the nazir, don't go by the vineyard. Don't go into the wine tasting. You stay home. That's the rule that we have in the Torah. The same thing here. The Chachamim know that it's all week long when the candle goes bad, you go like this. Now you tell the guy, sit on Shabbat with a bad candle and don't go like that. We made a gizera. And they have that, and that's what Hashem told them to do.
Half hour did he say lighting a candle?
We didn't get to the half hour yet. It's coming soon. We got. With everything. Hashem told him to do it with everything. But we got to continue. We could talk. This is a general philosophical question. Not for now. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah.
So the Shabbat, going back to the calendar, Shabbat or Hanukkah?
Hanukkah candle. When he says b'Shabbat, he means Hanukkah candle that you're lighting on Shabbat. Shabbat candles you use. Habibi, Shabbat candles are meant for use. That's why you can't light with it, because you're using it. Nerot Hanukkah, where do you think he's lighting the Nerot Hanukkah? Outside. He's not using it. Even if he's sitting outside, he's not going to use that light. So there's no problem. But the guy's lighting on his table, he has to light with good candles. Amar bimi amaita amad Rav Kasavari holds a kapta en zakukla. If it went out, you can't use it. If it went out, you don't have to light it. Ve'asur lishtamesh leora. You're not allowed to use the light. Why shouldn't you be able to use the light? No, why can't you use the light of the menorah? Hanukkah, why are you not allowed to use it? Okay, Hazar Baruch, so you're quoting me a song, but why not?
No, because you're didn't
Thank you, Sion.
not sanctifying the lights.
You're not supposed to benefit from the light. The purpose of the light. You're taking away from the purpose.
What purpose? What's the purpose?
To show the miracle.
So, and if I use the light,
You're degrading it.
It might come to have lit it for selfish purposes.
very close. Look in Rashi. Rashi says, what's doing, Joe? Asur lishtamesh leora. You can't use the light. Sheyehen nikar. It should be recognizable. Shu ner mitzvah. If you light it and then you sit next to it with your book, people are going to say, "Oh, it's not Hanukkah candles. He wants to read."
He's lighting it outside.
Okay, but if he's sitting outside with his book, they'll say he needed to read. So therefore, the rabbi said, you're not allowed to use the light. Like this, it will be clear that he lit it for Pirsum Nisa. So it's very close to what you said. I need to do it in a way that it's clear that it's only for publicizing the miracle. So, like that. That's one kap. Amru Rabbanan kamed Abaye. Very interesting little story here. So the rabbis told Abaye, Mishmed Rabbi Yirmiyah. They told Abaye that Rabbi Yirmiyah says, Kapta en zakukla ve'asul l'shtamesh lora, and you can light the candles, you can light them ben b'shabbat ben b'chol ve'lo kibla. He didn't accept it. He didn't trust the Rabbi Yirmiyah that Rav said it, because he had Rav Huna and Rav Chisda that said differently. He couldn't believe this statement. Mishme ki ata Rabin, when Rabin came from Eretz Yisrael, Amru Rabbanan kamed de Abaye mishmed Rabbi Yochanan. They told him over that Rabbi Yochanan holds like this also. Mutar ladlik la ben b'shabbat ben b'chol v'kibla, and he accepted it. Amar, he said, Izakai, if I had the zechut Gemirte l'shma'atem ikara. I would have studied that statement when I heard it the first time. Says the Gemara, Vehagamra, but in the end he did study it. What's the difference? You know it now, okay. Nafkamina legirsa di yankuta. Nafkamina for the learning of youth. Rashi explains, girsa di yankuta, what you learn when you're young, mitkayem yoter mishel zikna. It lasts longer than when you learn old. When you learn old, it's like writing on paper that's been erased 100 times. It doesn't last so long.
What's old?
What's old? 150, right?
Oh, okay.
I wish, but old is probably, we're already old.
Oh, yeah?
Kapta. Listen, the younger the better, but short-term memory is, the old people, the long-term memory is much better than the short-term memory.
Remember something from 30 years ago, not from 3 years ago.
I want. Okay. Vikibla. Vikabta, it says the Gemara, Vikabta en zakukla. Is it possible to say that if the Ner Hanukkah goes out after 10 minutes, you don't have to relight it? Urmin, who I'll ask you a question. Mitzvata, the mitzvah of Ner Hanukkah, Misha tishka ha'hama, ad shetechle regel min hashuk. The mitzvah of lighting Hanukkah candles is from Shikiat ha'hama until Tichle Regel Min Hashuk, until the people stop walking in the streets. So what does it mean? The mitzvah is from here until here.
And it has to last from here until there?
My love, the ikapta hadar madlikla. The mitzvah is from here to here, and for that whole period, you're responsible to have it on. So if it was on and it went off, put it back on. That's what it means, from here to here. Says the Gemara, lo, that's not what it means. It means the lo adlik madlik. From shkiyat hama till tichle regel min hashuk, if you didn't light, you could light. And after tichle regel min hashuk, don't light. No. He's telling you, once you lit it, it's enough. So what does it mean? What does it mean? Mitzvata is from shkiyat hama till tichle regel min hashuk. It means that that's the window of lighting. You have this period to light. After that, look in Tosfot, the lo adlik madlik, aval mikam va'elach after tichle regel min hashuk, avar azman.
What's the problem? Only for somebody inside. For somebody that could be all night. What's the problem?
Well, you explain to me. If people are not walking outside, who are you publicizing it to?
If somebody passes out.
If somebody will pass by. The rabbis, imagine you pay to put up your banner by a baseball game, right? So the guy tells you, oh, I forgot to put it by the game, I'll put it now. The game is over, but maybe there's some people there. Azal Baruch. This, by Tichle Regel Min Hashuk, at this point, there's lots of people walking in the street. We told you to light then. You come home late, you say, okay, I'll light now. Well, maybe there's some guy doing. I'm not paying you.
That's not the only reason. It's not the only reason.
What?
Somebody says that's the only reason.
It is the only reason.
That's the only reason we light candles?
Yeah.
If you somewhere in your house in deal, if
So-
you're facing the beach, you shouldn't light a candle because
So
somebody
the rabbis told you have to do. 1 second. If you want to advertise by a Yankee game, you advertise by a Yankee. You want to advertise by a Pittsburgh Steelers game. Want by the I don't know some you get as much as you can get. But to go to the stinky game and to get nothing. You say, the Yankee Stadium at night is the same as this minor league team in Kalamazoo. You're right, okay, but you had to do the best you could. We made a takana so you get as much as you can. That's what the Omer Hari Porat, the Yesh Li Zaheru Ladlik Balayla Miyad. He says, light right away. Shelo Ya'aher Yoter Midai. Umiko Makom Im Iher Yadlik Mi Safek. Look in the Gemara. The Gemara says, 1 second. Inami l'shi'ura. The other answer is, you know what it means? From shkiyat till tichle regel min hashuk. You have to put that much oil in. You have to put enough oil to go from here to here. But once you lit it, that's up to Hashem. If it goes, you're okay. If it doesn't go, you're okay too. It was possible to do it. That was my responsibility. V'haraya Shabbat. Once I light it, I can't fix it. So Ri Porat says, even on the weekday, same.
No, but Hanukkah candles, if it goes out.
You don't have to relight it. That's what we're saying. Right. Of course. Not on Shabbat. Right. Right. It doesn't have to light for a half hour. It has to be able to light for a half hour. Up to you. Now,
Doesn't hurt.
doesn't hurt. It's nice. It looks good. You finish the oil. Now,
Hebrew lam lam, no more.
also people don't look strange. You only have 4 candles on 5 from the other candle. We're going to see that soon tomorrow. So now over here, Tosfot is saying Reportat says light anyway. Why? If the other answer is the correct answer, lishi'ura, that you have to put that amount of oil, right? So then that means that you can really light after that. So light misafek. Now let me ask you, Jack, if you're lighting misafek, should you make a beracha? You shouldn't make a beracha. Don't make a beracha.
I'm answering your question.
But you don't agree.
I don't know.
So what? No. A guy is lighting after the time, after Techler Regel Min Hashuk. So the report says light misafek. Should you make beracha misafek?
It's not safek on the berachot, safek on the candle.
Okay, so if I'm not doing a mitzvah, should I make a beracha?
I think you should.
What?
Yeah, you say it. You say it.
That's a good question. The Rif says v'hu kemo hatzi sha'ah. The Rambam says the same. V'hu kemo hatzi sha'ah.
I know December it just gets dark very early. They don't live in New York. If it was in the summertime at 7 o'clock,
In the summertime, it will be 7 to 8. It'll be 8 to 9. In the winter time, it gets dark 4:45 l'chaura. The Rambam says in Ilchot Hanukkah. I'll show you the Rambam. He says, whatever, when they come home. The Rambam says, En madlikim nerot Hanukkah kodem shetishka hama. You don't light the nerot Hanukkah before shkiat hama. Ela im shkiata, with the sunset. Lo ma'achirim velo makdimim. Shachach o hizid velo hidlik im shkiat hama. If he didn't light by shkiat hama, madlik veholech, he could light ad shetechle regel min hashuk. V'kama hu zeman zeh. How long is this time? Kemo hasi sha'ah. Around a half hour. Or yoter. Or maybe a little more. Avar zeman zeh. If this time passed, en madlik, don't light. That's what Harambam says. The Magid Mishneh quotes, he quotes from the Rashba, and he says, Ve'omrim, Tevada yim lo idlik betoch shi'ur zeh, madlik kol halayla. He can light all night. Tehatinan kol shemitzvato balayla, kasher kol halayla. Ela shelo asa mitzvah ketekna. He didn't do the mitzvah properly.
What's safek? The way is it?
Tosafot said it's a safek. The Magid Mishneh is quoting a Rashba that you can light anyway, all night.
What's safek?
Not safek. L'chaura, that's what Maran holds. L'chaura.
So sunset here is 4:29. You would have to light at 4:29.
Right. Or 4:45. Some say Shkiat Hama is 4:45. Okay, that's that. So then you have a fundamental question. If the times change, does the time change? Okay, that's another answer. Look in the next line in Tos. The read thinks it doesn't make a difference when you light. This is we're lighting inside the house, right? I'm lighting for them. Okay. Okay. How long is techle regel min hashuk? Which people? Most people, some people. Amar Rabba Barbarhana, Amar Rabbi Yohanan, Ad dechalya rigla de Tarmuda'eh. Till the Tarmuda'eh leave the shuk. Who are these Tarmuda'eh people? We don't have any over here. Shem Uma, Rashi says it's a nation, milakte etzim, dakim. They would gather small kindling wood, umit akvim bashuk. They would stay laid out. Ad sheholchim b'nei hashuk lebatehem. Till the people went home, right? Umav'irim bebatehem ur, and they start lighting the fire. Uchshirichim le'itzim, when they need the wood, yotzim v'konim mehem, they go out and they buy from them. So he's telling you, sounds like if the 24-hour store. So in Brooklyn, what, you can light all night? Now let me tell you the problem with saying that. We said that you have to, there's two answers. Until Techle Regel Min Hashuk, either you could light until then, or you have to put that much oil. So are you going to tell me that I have to put oil all night? Nobody wants to say that. Or you're gonna say no. When it comes to how long you can light, I say that techle regel min hashuk is all night. And when I say how much oil you have to put, I say techle regel min hashuk is a half hour. Okay, let's go. Most of the people going home. There's two ways to look at it. There's two ways to look at it. There's the way Saul was saying that you say, listen, nowadays people are in the street till 7, 8 o'clock. Most people are traveling till 7, 8. 1 second. Till 7 to 8 o'clock at night is rush hour. Nothing to talk about, right? From 4 o'clock until 7 o'clock, for sure, people are in the street. A lot of people are going. So that you could say that nowadays Techle Regel Min Hashuk is 3 hours. You want to say Talmud Da'eh? Maybe you have to light all night. That's the problem. Live Times Square. No, he's the Chabad of Times Square guy. Okay, his menorah is on all night anyway. The only problem is probably higher than 20 amot. Let's see. Tan Rabbanan. Mitzvat Hanukkah. The mitzvah of Hanukkah. Ner ishu beto.
You light the candle.
Albert, let's go. Mitzvat Hanukkah ner ishu beto. 1 candle for a person and his whole family. Light 1 candle every night for you and your whole family. V'amehadrin. If you want to do a better mitzvah, you want to do it nicer. Ner lekol ehad ve'ehad. Light a candle for everybody in your family every night. So you have 3 people in the family, every night light 3 candles. V'amehadrin min hamehadrin. You want to do nicer than those that are doing nicer. Bet Shammai omrim. Bet Shammai says, Yom Rishon on the first day, madlik shmone. Light 8 candles. Mikam va'elach pochet ve'olech. After that, go down. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ubetelel omrim. Betelel says, Yom Rishon madlik ahat. On the first day, you light 1. Mikam va'elach. After that, mosif ve'olech. You add on. Right? You go up. What? No. No, the first guy is lighting 1 the first night, every night. No. And the second, this guy is lighting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
What's the reason for Bet Shammai lighting 8 the first day?
Wait, the first guy lighting one candle, Rabbi?
What?
What is someone having about?
1 to 8?
Yeah, 1 to 8 or 8 to 1.
We'll see. Pligi
Rabbi, the first guy's
The
lighting
first guy's doing 1
every night.
1 first night,
One every
1 the
night.
second night, 1 the third night.
Right. Every night 1. 8th night 1. Pligi ba Amar Ula. Ula says, Pligi ba tre emora'e b'ma'rava. 2 emoraim argue in Eretz Yisrael about what the reason is. Right? Who are they? Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi and Rabbi Yossi bar Zavida. Hadamar, one explained, Ta'amad Bet Shammai keneged yamim hanichnasim. I light 8 because there's 8 days Hanukkah coming in. I light 7 because there's 7 days left. I light 6 because there's 6 days left. V'ta'amad Bet Hillel keneged yamim hayotzim. How many days pass? So the first day I have 1 day of Hanukkah, I light 1. Second day 2, 2. Second day 2, so on. V'hadamar, and one says, Ta'amad Bet Shammai keneged parei hachag. The reason of Bet Shammai is because just like on Sukkot, when we were bringing the parim, we started with 13 and we ended with 7, so you went down. V'ta'amad Bet Hillel. Bet Hillel's reason is ma'alim b'kodesh v'lo moridim. Bet Hillel says, what are you going down for? We have a rule, we always go up. And Rashi says we learn it from Pesukim. So that's 2 different reasons for each one. Either Yamim hanichnasim, the days coming in, and ma'alim b'kodesh, or Yamim hayotzim and parei hachag. That doesn't do anything. Because the reason of, there's another question. When we said mehadrin, mina mehadrin, so the regular guy is lighting 1. I got 4 people in the family. On the first night I light 1. I'm a plain guy. The mehadrin guy, every night he's lighting 4. Right? 8 times 4, he lit 32. Right?
Let's see if he has for
Altogether, he lit 32. Right? The first guy, how many did he light on the whole Hanukkah?
The first guy's like 1.
1 every night, he lit altogether 8. The Mehadrin guy, let's say there's 10 people in his family. How many did he light at the end of Hanukkah? 80. 10 every night. Right? The Mehadrin and the Mehadrin guy if you tell me that mehadrin means first do the hidur of mehadrin, light one for every person in the candle, and then, so on the first night light 10, on the second night light 20, on the third night light 30, on the fourth night 40, till on the last night you light 80. So he's mehadrin, mina mehadrin. He's making even a bigger hidur than the guy that's making a hidur. Tosafot says no. Tosafot says, I think the mehadrin and mehadrin lights 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No more, no less. Why? He says, because if you light 10, 20, 30, 40, nobody knows what night it is. Maybe it's the first night and he has 10 people in his house. Maybe it's the second night and he has 5 people in his house. Maybe a third night it can't be. What? He's got little nerot along the thing, right? So Tosafot understands that the hidur of mehadrin is not just lighting more candles, but the hidur of mehadrin is showing through your lighting how the miracle increased every night according to Beit Hillel.
So you're not supposed to light
One
with the idea of increasing,
so
but not for everybody in the
that's what Tosafot says, and that's what Maran says. Hanukkah is the holiday that the Sfaradim follow Tosfot, and Ashkenazim follow Harambam, who says to light 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80.
You have oil company.
Right, that's one. Okay.
20, 30 for someone that has 10 people in the family.
Right. I mean, everybody in the house lights extra, according to the Tosfot, according to the Ashkenazim. Let's see. Says Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yohanan. Rabbi Yohanan says, Shenei zekinim ayu b'sidan. There were 2 zekinim in Seder. Achat asa kebet Shammai. One guy did like Bet Shammai. He lit 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ve'echad asa kedivrei Bet Hillel. And one did like Bet Hillel, 1 to 8. Ze noten ta'am lidvarav. This guy would say his reason, keneged parei hag, like the parim on the hag that go down. Ve'ze noten ta'am lidvarav. This one gives his reason, the ma'alim ba'kodesh, that we go up in holiness ve'em moridim. Tanu Rabbanan, we learn. So the question is, what's the point of the story? So Mishnah Berurah wants to say a big chidush. He says, these 2 rabbis in the time of Rabbi Yohanan, didn't we hold halachas like Bet Hillel? So how's he doing like Bet Shammai? So he says, when do we hold halacha ke Bet Hillel? When it's a din. Over here it's a question of a hidur. Maybe the halacha is not like Bet Hillel. Wow. Do what you like.
Dude, it's changing everything. Mehader, it's something Mehader, it's something else. It's not
Yeah.
Hanukkah just happened not so long ago.
Right.
Where is it written about how to light on? That you have to light on Hanukkah to begin with?
It's good question. Not for now. Let's finish and we'll talk. Ready? My Hanukkah, says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, Ner Hanukkah, mitzvah laniha al petach beto. The candles of Hanukkah, it's a mitzvah to put it by the door of your house. Mi bahutz, outside. Im hayad dar ba'aliyah, if you live in an attic and you don't have an outside door that's yours, you have to walk through the other guy's house, so you don't have your own place to light it. Maniha behalon hasamuch hasmucha l'rshut rabim. So you light it by the window facing the public, so at least the public could see it. Ubish'at sakana, when the goyim made a decree not to light, so what could you do? Manihal shulchano, light it on your table. Now it doesn't look like a Chanukah candle. It looks like your candlelight. Vidayon, that's enough. Amar Rabba, Rava says, tzarich neracheret lishtamesh leora. If you're lighting in your house, you have to do something to show that this is not your regular dinner candle. So you light a second candle. So the fact that you have, it didn't say anything about a shamosh. It said 1 to 8. So that's exactly what it says. But notice over here, it only says you need to light this shamosh only
inside.
If you're doing
On the table.
only when you're in the house.
On the table.
Why? Not to use that light, but as a heker. L'shtamesh le'ora, Rashi says, tzarich nera heret, di'i lo have heker. If you don't put it, what's it called? Nera heret la'asot heker. So this is the one that I eat by, and this is the one for the mitzvah. V'ika medora. If there's a fireplace burning, so the guy normally wouldn't light a candle. So en tzarich, he doesn't need because.
If you have 8 and have 1.
V'adam hashuvu, and if he's an important person who normally would not read or sit by fireplace light, avagav de'ika medura, even though there's a fireplace, tzarich nera heret, so it should be a heker that you lit these for Hanukkah.
So where is the source for all this?
My Hanukkah, What is Hanukkah? Tetanu Rabbanan. We have a Braita. It's actually quoted in Megillat Ta'anit. Bekaf Hei Bekislev, on the 25th of Kislev. Yomed Hanukkah. They're the days of Hanukkah. Timanya Inun. There's 8 days. The Lola Misped Behon. You're not allowed to make a Hesped. Okay, great. We'll light menorah for you. Udulol Ana Behon. And you can't fast on it. Why? Shekishenichnesu Yevanim lehechal. When the Greeks went into the Hechal, Timeu kol hashemanim. They defiled all the oils. Sheba Hechal that were in the Hechal. Ushegavra malchut bet Hashmonai. V'nisehum. And when the Hashmonaim were victorious and they defeated them, Badku, they checked. V'lo matzu elapach ehad shel shemen. They only found 1 jug of oil, sheya munach bechotamo shel kohen gadol, that was sealed with the kohen gadol sealed. V'lo haya bo ela lahadlik yom ehad. There was only enough in there to light 1 day. Na'asa bo nes, a miracle happened. V'edliku mimenu shemona yamim. They lit 8 days. L'shana acheret. The next year, kiva'um va'asaum yamim tovim. They decreed, the Betin decreed that it should be a Yom Tov, behalel v'hoda'ah. We have to say Halel, and you have to say Hoda'ah is ala nisim in the Amidah. So that's the Takana of Hanukkah. It's recorded in a book called Megillat Ta'anit. You could open up Megillat Ta'anit, which was written during the time of the second Beit HaMikdash, like we learned about Hananiah ben Hizkiah ben Garon, and it's recorded over there.
And it's recorded over there. And it's a very short period from that time to here.
Correct.
So how is it possible that you have people with different opinions on something that was just written?
It's a very good question. But I believe that the answer is that originally they made the takana to make Ner Ishu Beto. That was the original takana. And then when they came to decide how to make, if you want to make Hidurim, so they disagreed about what's the best way to make a Hidur. But the original takana is clear, it's Ner Ishu Beto, and nobody argues on that. That was the original decree.
Who wrote it?
Whoever the rabbis were at the time. I don't know. Shimon ben Shetach, whoever it was, maybe before that even. Matityahu, I don't know.
And knowing that there's machloket all over.
There wasn't a mahloket yet. They instituted 1 candle. Then later on, people came, the rabbis came, they said, we think it's better to make a hidur. How should we institute the hidur? And at that point, they already discussed what's the best way. But the original takana was clear, ner ushibeto. That's the way I always understood it. Could be I'm wrong, but that's what I understood. Let's continue, we have 2 minutes. The Gemara says, Tenan hatam, we learned over there in Baba Kama, Getz hayotze mitachat patish. If you have a blacksmith and he's banging with his hammer, and you have a spark goes out, v'yatza ve'zik, it went out and it damaged, hayav. He's chayav because you should have been careful to guard your sparks. They shouldn't damage anything. Gamal sheta'um pishtan. If you have a camel loaded with flax, v'hu over b'shut rabim, he's walking through the public's area. V'nechnesa pishtano letoch ha'hanut. So the flax was sticking out, it went through the window. V'dalka b'nerosh el himvani. And it went on fire from the himvani's candle. V'idlika tabira, and then he continued and he set a building on fire. Ba'ala gamal hayav. The owner of the camel is hayav. Why? Because he should have been careful with his law that it shouldn't go where there's fire. Hiniya himvani et nero b'chutz. Let's say the himvani was very busy. He stuck the candle outside the window. Himvani hayav. The himvani is hayav because he shouldn't have put his candle where somebody could get lit from it. And Rabbi Yehuda says, Bener Hanukkah patur. If the candle was a Ner Hanukkah candle, he's patur. Why? Because he had permission to put it outside. Amar Rabina says, Zot omeret, that this teaches us, Ner Hanukkah mitzvah lanicha betoch asara. It's a mitzvah to light the Hanukkah candle below 10 tefachim. Why? Because if you light below 10 tefachim, it shows that you didn't light it for light, you lit it for the mitzvah. Because you want something for light, you put it up high. Like this, you light it low. So the Isal Kadaitach Lemala Ma'asara. If you're going to tell me that you could light it above 10 tefachim, Leimalei, he should tell the store owner, Hayalecha laniha lemala migamal v'rochbo. You should have put your candle higher than where the camels go. Be protective. Elama Ner Hanukkah demands that I put it low. Says Dilma, no, maybe it's not true. Maybe the reason why to be that not because it's pasul above 10. Imatrihale. No.
I've seen it many times on the floor.
That we light it under 10. Imatrihale. If you bother him, ati le'imnu mitzvah. You tell the guy, you got to light Ner Hanukkah, you need a ladder, you got to light above the camels. So we didn't make it too difficult, but maybe it is. Maybe. Bring a camel. They light below 10, not I know.